All right, welcome back, guys, to my YouTube channel. My name is Adam, also known as the Plant Power Coach. Today, I'm joined by Gareth. Gareth, how are you doing today?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Thanks. Yourself?
I'm doing very, very well. It's lovely weather today. I don't know, where exactly are you again? You're in...
South Wales, mate, in the UK.
Yes, okay, so kind of probably similar forecast. So I want to start off very, very simple. Obviously, get to know you a little bit more. Tell us a little bit about who you are. What's your story? How did we get here today?
Well, obviously, my name is Gareth Jenkins. I'm an online fitness coach. Been bodybuilding over a decade, close to 15 years now. Trying to obviously help people along the way, trying to coach them to be better and everything from lifestyle. Got competitive clients as well. My background is anything sport related, really. So played rugby, did boxing, never at any like crazy levels or anything, but always been fairly into sport. The job I used to do back in the day basically meant I couldn't make certain training times. So like, whereas like you'd have like certain times you'd have to be at the gyms for say certain things like boxing training or whatever it may be.
Yep.
I couldn't make those. So I ended up turning into weight training because you can sort of get in there and do it as and when you've got the free time. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, I just took up the bodybuilding side of things from there, started competing, took like a 6-year break from competing where I sort of fell out of love with it a bit. And then COVID hit. And then where we'd had like the no gyms for 2 years, I decided I wanted to get back into the competing side of things. I sort of ramped up the training again, the food, the eating, the intensity and all that sort of stuff, and got back into it. And I've sort of fallen in love with it again. But this is my last year competing this year because it's very difficult when you've got kids and all that kind of stuff. So
yep. I'm very curious. I mean, you mentioned, you kind of answered my next question. Is it just because you've had kids, or is there a reason? I mean, 10 years, just, you may not know this about me, but I've competed on stage 5 times as well, not as a bodybuilder, but like more physique, and those sorts of like the fitness model side of things. Yeah, what's your reasoning behind it? Because it's probably very similar to mine.
I mean, obviously, competitive bodybuilding is not sustainable.
Yep.
I am too far over the hill, if you will, to be anything professional with it. Mm-hmm. So is it worth the health risks and the extremities of the dieting and all that kind of stuff? No, not really. What, for a £5 trophy? All the money you spend, all that money can be invested into other things, business, holidays, spending time with my son, all that kind of stuff. So is it worth, do you get the same like out of it that you put in? No. So that's probably why I'm stepping away from it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And the fact that when you're dieting and you're in the trenches and you are absolutely shredded, I mean, people have got different like sort of views on what you should look like on stage. I mean, like if you can walk and you can function in the last 2 weeks of your prep, you've done it wrong, in my opinion. You should be hanging. So that's no way to live if you're trying to sort of parent and all that kind of stuff. So
it reminds me of a Facebook post I put up, kind of, like every now and then in regards to content you may be familiar with, you put a kind of question out there, which is quite polarizing. The question was, would you rather be, I think it was like 40% body fat and happy, or would you rather be 5% body fat and unhappy? And I was fascinated to see so many people on the sort of unhappy side of things. And I also heard someone actually wrote, I'd rather be 5% because I'll probably be happy anyway because 5% is healthy. And I was like, geez, I don't think you've ever been 5%, mate, if you think that's healthy.
Yeah, you sit down on a comfy sofa and your fucking ass hurts. Like it's not healthy.
Definitely not. Now, obviously, Gareth, our actually first interaction together was only yesterday, and we had a little bit of a chat. Obviously, this channel has a tie-in with veganism, has a tie-in with fitness, and the reason the idea came to me, I was like, I hear Cassie's side of it. I don't want to have only vegan people on this channel. I think it's important to hear, let's call it both sides of the story as well. I'm curious, not in regards, well, actually, in regards to kind of your life. How does veganism tie in? Have you come from a place such as myself where I was essentially anti-vegan? I wasn't interested, kind of went that direction, maybe went backwards. Like, what's your life experience with understanding what veganism in your life? Yeah.
Well, good question. So I'm not anti-vegan. I'm not anti anything other than anti-limitation diets.
Yep.
So I think if you're limiting anything from your diet, bad idea.
Yep.
That's just my personal opinion on it. So obviously, if you're not having something that is nutrient dense, whatever that may be. So if you're cutting out fibrous carbohydrate sources from, like, you're not having vegetables or that kind of stuff, that's bad. I think if you're cutting out all meat products and all meat sources, that's bad. I think you should have a balance of everything in moderation. That's just the way I do it. Now, I'm not a massive meat eater. I love red meat. So I do try and have at least one ribeye a day, some form of fillet, whether I make a stroganoff or whatever. I do try and have quite a decent amount of red meat during the week, just because I enjoy it. Two, you get stronger eating red meat. And I've done both sides of the diet. I've eaten just white meat. I've eaten just white fish. I've eaten just a red meat diet where literally every meal was red meat. And I've also cut meat out and lived off other sources. And I was definitely strongest eating red meat.
Yep.
So, but in terms of being a meat eater, I'm not a massive meat eater. Like, you can ask Cassie, I don't go around eating kilos of chicken every day and all that kind of stuff. I get a lot of protein from whey protein. And like I say, other food sources. I'm not a massive, like, carnivorous juice head, if you will.
Yep.
But I'm not really anti anything. Obviously, being with Cassie has been a sort of an eye opener as to obviously, how do I explain it? The other side of what you guys view. But the problem that I find with a lot of vegans, not all, obviously, because people do have educations and all the rest of it, is a lot of people jump on the bandwagon to, like, be part of, like, a cult, if you will, thinking that they're being really healthy just by cutting out all meat products, which is obviously a really fucking stupid idea. So if you cut out anything for your diet, whatever that's providing you, you have to find somewhere else.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're lacking in some form of nutrient somewhere from something.
Yep.
But that's being vegan, meat eaters, whatever it is, you're lacking in something. So I just believe that there's not enough education based around actually becoming a proper vegan and doing it properly. People just seem to cut out all meat products, therefore it's a limitation diet, and they wonder why they have, like, dietary issues and just generally feel like shit from going vegan, but they think they're healthier. So I don't disbelieve in any diet. I don't have issues with anybody eating a certain way. I have issues with being pressured to eat a certain way. I think people should be left to live how they want to live, because they've got one life, let them live it. If you want to live vegan, that's your choice. I don't think that it should be rammed down people's throats, same as religion. If you're a Christian, you're a Muslim, that's great.
Yep.
It's for you. Don't stick it down my throat, because I will tell you where to go.
Yep.
But I've got no say. My son's 3, and it's quite funny, really, because I'll make him, like, a chicken wrap or whatever it may be, just because I'm cooking up some food, and he'll always pick the chicken out. He'll always pick the chicken out.
Yep.
And we were sat in the kitchen the other day, and I don't remember what Cassie had, but it was something really bland and boring, like some tofu salad and a bit of soy sauce or something. Just on. And he was like, "I like that," and she was like, "Really?" He's never eaten it. I like that. So she gave him some of this. It was hanging. It was just literally just some plain tofu and some soy sauce. And he smashed it, like.
So if she told me that,
well, if that's a choice he wants to make, and he wants to go and he wants to not eat meat, that'd be absolutely fine. But that's the problem. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not one of those people that are like pressure. You've got to eat meat to get gains and all this kind of stuff. There's obvious facts behind it that no plant source of protein is as bioavailable as meat sources. There is that, Lane Norton, but he confirmed that the other day on one of his posts. But does it mean you can't get jacked and tanned from being vegan? No, it doesn't. So if you want to live that way, I think it's perfectly fine.
Yep. So you kind of answered my next point in there, because obviously I have the same sort of questions. I have, like, a kind of a mix. I have similar questions to I had for Cassie, and then I have similar questions that I have lined up that I had for Rupert, which is a colleague of mine. He's not vegan at all. And the first bit was, I think people have different definition of veganism, particularly people who aren't vegan. So how would you define veganism? What is it when you hear that word? What is the definition in your mind?
To me, it's people that don't like the thought of animals being killed for for a food source.
Yeah.
If, in my opinion, if you're a vegan, so how I see it from Cassie's point of view, for example, is it's not really about what you eat and why you eat it and all the rest of it. It's more based from stemming from the point of, you know, technically innocent animals being slaughtered for human consumption.
Yep.
So that to me is where I think it should stem from.
Yep.
Rather than a health standpoint.
Yep.
But I'm not a vegan, so
yeah,
I never be a vegan.
I think you hit the nail on the head. And I think I agree with you when it comes to having the conversation about health. Veganism, there's a huge correlation. There's a huge overlap because we eat multiple times a day, 3, 4, 5 times a day. And because we spend so much time eating, our decisions, our choices can influence innocent animals, like you said. So your definition, like you just said with Cassie, if I agree with that 100%, like her point, what would, and this is a question I asked for Rupert, keeping in mind what her definition is and what we've just kind of agreed on with that definition, what evidence would you have to be provided to be more understanding or be on the side of Cassie?
I don't need evidence.
You don't?
No, I don't need evidence. I understand people's views on it. That can't change everybody's view.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You know, I come from, you know, small town and, you know, brought up around farmers and no farmers and all the rest of it. Now, there's no cows, no cattle being tortured for meat. They're being killed, not being tortured. So a lot of the nonsense you read online is from countries that aren't in the UK. Do you know what I mean? The chicken farming industry is absolutely diabolical. I worked in it. I built the chicken sheds. Do you know what I mean? It is absolutely horrendous. Battery farms are, you know, that's why I don't really eat chicken, to be honest with you, because, you know, I've been in chicken sheds trying to walk through them and standing on chickens.
Yep.
That's no joke. Literally standing on chickens that are so fat they can't move anywhere because there's tens of thousands of them in a shed.
Yep.
And just a big hopper just drops seed and they just eat, get fat, and then get killed. And obviously then you've got the male chicks, obviously then just get thrown in the bin when they're alive. And I've seen that firsthand. That's literally hanging. So anything that I do eat typically comes from farm sources, butchers. Like I just been to butchers this morning, bought 2 ribeyes and some fillet beef, steak Argentine. So it's all red meat, obviously, but I don't like. You wouldn't catch me in the supermarket unless needed buying myself chicken.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
It's not something that I tend. One, because the meat's always like, I don't know how you're going to take this, but the meat's always bad. It's not good meat. And second of all, it's really expensive for what you get. And obviously the sources that it comes from are not particularly great.
Yeah.
But you can't. Go on.
No, sorry, go on. You go.
You want about like what evidence do I need to be provided? There's no evidence on this planet that's going to stop me eating a ribeye steak.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So I definitely agree with you with the point of like, and I know this video interview, I don't want to make it debatative, if that's even a word, like a debate. But obviously it's important to have these conversations, I think, anyway, and I'm really kind of glad that you came on this channel. I definitely agree with what you're saying about the way that we treat animals can be different. I think it's just like, you know, in certain ways it can be seen as more torturous or more cruel than other options. And like, would you rather be kind of like kicked and beaten and then slashed across the throat, or would you prefer to get shot in the head? Right? Like we can kind of agree that one way is worse than the other. I guess my point being, what the point of veganism, based on the definition I think we've both discussed, is there is an alternative. So what, like, with the question is like, what evidence would you have to be provided? Why is it you feel that someone like Cassie, not necessarily, I'm using Cassie because obviously
that's fine.
You're close with her. Why is it you feel that someone like Cassie can make a change with the same evidence, because I feel like you're on the same page with evidence-wise, compared to yourself?
Because she wants to.
Because she wants to. Do you think that, would you say Cassie like doesn't like the taste of meat, for example?
Not because she used to be a meat eater.
So
you can't go your whole life eating meat until a few years back and turn vegan.
Yep.
Because nobody's, and unless their parents are, nobody just is vegan from birth. It just doesn't happen.
Yep.
And their parents force that lifestyle on them, which I think is unfair. You should be allowed to make choices, your own choices. But you can't go from being a meat eater, liking the taste of meat, to then eating products which are imitating meat and imitating the taste of meat, and then say you don't like the taste of meat.
Yeah.
So that doesn't make any logical sense.
Yeah. I get that question a lot, which is like, well, you don't like the taste of meat. To me, it's a bit of a moot point. It's irrelevant because I can take both sides of that path and say yes or no and play out the conversation, but it's an irrelevant point. I like to just go with where the person wants me to go, which is like, sure, let's just say I do like meat. Me personally, even if I enjoy it, I don't find my enjoyment a justification, because we mentioned choice. The common argument there is just like, what about the choice of the animals? How do you feel about that question?
Oh, do you know what? It's funny because obviously I'm not vegan, right? It's quite clear. I've just been to the butchers.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you that it can class as cruel, killing animals for food. I mean, we've done it since the dawn of time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But it's literally been done since the dawn of time. That is what humans have done forever, right? Hunted and killed. So, I mean, you can feel bad, but the way that I view it all and how I take my emotion out of it is the fact of I've got one life. That life can be fueled by cancer at some stage. I could get Alzheimer's. I could die early. Do you know what I mean? Life is pretty. It's great. Life's a great thing if everything's going well and all boxes are being ticked. But it can kick you in the dick quite a lot of times.
Yeah.
So I think to myself, if I'm getting that from life and I want to enjoy a steak, then that's what I'm going to do. Because I could not wake up tomorrow and I've given up that steak for what?
Yeah.
And it would take millions of me giving up that steak
to
save any number of cows.
Yep.
So I get what you're saying.
And I want to be completely understanding of your point here. I guess if I was a neutral party, let's say I was an alien that just arrived down on Earth, I don't know both sides of the story. Imagine I'm just like, okay, we've got some vegans, we've got some non-vegans. What are your arguments? What are your arguments, right? Let's just hear both sides. It's kind of what you've said about I want to eat a bit of steak. I've taken, like, I've only got one life. I want to live it. Could that argument not be used towards something like, okay, I like punching dogs in the face? Could that argument not be used the same way?
Cassie had this conversation the other night, right? So, and it was something similar, but it was a bit more crude than that.
What was the example? What was the example? We can use that one.
The example was
You can't even say it.
No, I can't even say it. It was a lot of food. It was
Okay.
it was to do with some form of assault, basically.
And,
okay. Basically, if that's their choice and that's their preference, is that make it okay?
Yeah.
Which I understand that, right?
Yeah.
But we're talking, right, on two different scales, aren't we? If you just walk up and start punching a dog in the face, right? One, you're not killing that dog for one. Not that I think you should kill any dog for any good reason.
Yeah.
But you're just punching a fucking dog in the face.
Yeah.
There's just no need for it. Now, if you punch that in the face to kill the dog and then eat it, and you lived in China, there's a different story behind that.
Yep.
Because that's a culture and a lifestyle that they tend to eat dog, don't they? Apparently, or one of those Asian countries. But I don't think that something like that can be used as an example. I think that's a bit far.
Why not? Why not?
Just because I think it's a bit far fetched.
I could argue that the reasoning for, I use myself as an example because I don't want to kind of put anyone on this sort of evil thing, which I'm happy to take the blame for. I get the same enjoyment of punching a dog as you might get from eating a piece of meat, right? I like a vegan could argue, well, that's a bit far-fetched as well to justify killing an animal for a piece of meat just to enjoy the taste. Again, I'm trying to act like an alien neutral party.
So since the dawn of time, people punch dogs in the face?
Yeah. So do you think that because we've done something since the dawn of time that it's justified?
It depends on your idea of justification, doesn't it? I mean,
Same reason. I could say like we've had rapes and murder since the dawn of time. I don't think that's
yeah,
a
well,
justification.
that's what me and Cassie were talking about the other night. Yeah,
Yeah,
basically same sort of thing. You know, I
yeah.
like touching kids. I don't, but you know,
But we've had we've
you
had
just,
we've
you
had
justify
pedophiles
that.
since
I'm
the
like,
dawn of
oh,
time, probably.
yeah, I'll definitely make 100%,
Yeah.
100%. So what you, I tell you, what you're saying can be used as an argument. Yeah, it can, obviously, because there wouldn't be an argument. But there's arguments for everything, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Social science to back every theory, and you know, it depends on where you look and what articles you read and all the rest of it, and where your information comes from. You know, but I just personally think that I'm not going to give up something because some people feel a certain way.
Yeah. So again, bringing it back to that sort of same example, which was, and I know there's a kind of legality thing aspect to it, because there are many people who are locked away for abusing dogs. And my sort of thing to that is, you know, has legality always equaled morality? I don't think so. I don't think many people would agree with that. So I want to continue using that same example because I think it's like it's not too extreme, but it's kind of realistic, let's call it. So yeah, I'm trying to remember my train of thought here. So with the dog example, getting a dog punching it, we've punched dogs. Assuming we've punched dogs since the dawn of time. We probably have punched like
I
many
punched a
people
few
have.
dogs. Yeah, it's like a
Yeah,
Friday night.
and again, like the example here could be like, oh, was the dog trying to attack a little kid? I think that's perfectly justified. I think that's
Yeah.
completely acceptable. Self-defense, absolutely. Like, but I want to bring it back to the topic of necessity and intention. The necessity and intention of eating an animal versus assaulting an animal, whatever. What is the trait difference that you feel justifies doing one to an animal and not the other?
I don't. I think if you want to kill a dog for food, it's your choice.
Yep. So
There's no hierarchy in what animals can be killed or whatever else.
would you eat dog?
I just personally wouldn't kill a dog for food.
What would the reasoning be?
Because I think dogs are pets and they're more domesticated, which again is again an arguable thing, isn't it? But and it goes back to what we've done for time. We haven't killed dogs for meat.
Yep.
If anything, we've used them to round up meat.
Yeah. We could potentially use, like, we could reverse roles potentially, like in the sense of dogs have similar traits to pigs intelligence wise. We could have a pig that's a pet. We could have a dog.
Oh, I want a micro pig. I've already told Cassie if she doesn't buy me one for my birthday for some year, then we're obviously going to fail as a relationship.
Fun fact: they don't exist.
They're not.
No.
Oh, shit.
That's
burst my bubble for Friday afternoon.
There's a big problem in that community of people who want micro pigs because they essentially just grow up to be huge animals. Yeah, and they essentially get sold, like falsely sold, and then they're just stuck with these animals and they don't know what to do with them, and they just take up lots of space, and they're crazy, and they eat up everything, even if it's food or not. So yeah, it's
Can you imagine how shit that would be?
Yeah.
I've got a micro pig. A year later, it's like 4 foot long in the garden, like 40 kilos.
Yeah. I can send you some references and see, like, just take into consideration before you do anything drastic.
Yeah, I won't get a micro pig then, or if I do, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'll be interested to know that. Yeah. So I guess okay. So yeah, so I'm not sure if I got a clear answer on that. What would be the trait difference that you would feel that justifies killing one being killed and one being a pet? What's the trait difference?
It's domestication, isn't it, really?
Domestication?
Yeah, so you domesticate a dog, don't you have it as a pet, whereas you don't with a cow. You can. You've got a big fucking garden.
Yeah.
But you don't tend to. And yes, obviously they all feel, they're all their own level of intelligence, they're all living things and all the rest of it. I get that. but we have, since a dawn of time, domesticated certain animals and not others, which I suppose technically is wrong.
Mm.
When you look at the bigger picture, it is wrong technically.
Yeah. So we could, so if on one side we've domesticated some animals, and then what would be we've farmed certain animals, or we've livestocked, we could say.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to think of the right word for it. So we've domesticated some, we've farmed others. Could we not just reverse the traits, like essentially?
Well, yeah, you could.
Yeah.
I
So
can't imagine dogs selling that well though.
I mean, not in this
I had the
country for
choice. If I
sure.
had the choice of going in and buying a 300-gram ribeye or a dog leg, I know what I'm gonna
That
buy.
that's the interesting part to me. Have you heard of oh my goodness, I've forgotten the name now, but it's a company that Earlwood Farm. Earlwood Farm. Have you heard of Earlwood Farm?
No.
So they, I mean, to kind of ruin the surprise, they are a vegan activist website group where they sell dog meat. And if you go onto the website, it looks authentic. It looks exactly like they're a dog meat farm. They sell dog meat, and it's kind of satire. The whole website is satire. However, some people just can't see that. And they just seeing it, and it's just like dog meat farm, and we have Labrador steaks, and we have pug cutlets, and we have this, and it's designed exactly how you would for a butcher, for like cows, pigs, all that sort of stuff. Except all they do is just change it over the breeds of dogs. So it's called Earlwood Dog Meat Farm, and because it's satire, they use the same sort of arguments that non-vegans use towards having these foods, right? And they'll make a post on Facebook and be like, "We've just made some pug cutlets or chuck." Sorry, I'm trying to think of the cutlets and whatever. Some
Yeah,
pug cutlets and yeah, they're super tasty and they're organic and they're farm grown. And we're a small family, like local farm, all this sorts of stuff. And yeah, and the people in the comment section going ballistic, going crazy, right? And then they would comment underneath saying, "Oh, found the vegan." And these people were like, "Fuck you, I'm not vegan," blah, 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 like going crazy. And then it's just you can just see their whole argument just
literal
crumble.
clickbait.
Yeah, it's a really funny thing. They've originally from the US, and they've started doing a lot of advertising in the underground in London, and they've just taken off. They've just kind of like it's a really really interesting website to go to. I believe that you
I'll
can.
check it out, mate. That's quite
Yeah,
funny.
you have to check it out. It's amazing, and they do have a checkout page, so it looks like you're ordering food and stuff like that. But I believe in the end, all it is telling you it's satire, and then it will go to a donation if you choose to make the payment. So you can actually donate money to these guys that own a sanctuary, and you can look after these animals, and that they've got a whole bunch of animals they've got there. It's just an interesting thing, I think. Anyway,
Yeah,
um,
that's quite funny. Definitely check
yeah.
it out because that's some quality humor there, regardless of what reasons.
Exactly. It's fascinating. Maybe in the future conversations we can do a screen share and put it on the screen and I can show you. I think we kind of got a
Get them on
lot.
the podcast, mate.
Oh yeah, 100%. I kind of got a lot stronger understanding of your side of the story. Like how I do want to tie it in a lot more to Cassie now as well. Like
Yeah.
what's your relationship with Cassie when it comes to this topic? Also tying into anyone else who is vegan in your like who's close to you, and even kind of anti-vegan as well. Like how do you speak to people who are just like anti-vegan when your partner is vegan? How do you feel about that?
Obviously, I take some form of offence to it. There was a comment made on my post on Instagram the other day. No real harm meant behind it, but like some other lines of, "Oh, who the fuck would be vegan?" Blah blah blah, and all the rest of it. And I'm like, well, it's something that I would have said years ago. So I'm not being a hypocrite, but
Yep.
like, it's never at a certain point in time you've got to sort of develop as a human and
Yep.
understand that people have different views on things. So you shouldn't ever shoot them down for their views, which I
Yep.
do find a lot of vegans do to meat eaters.
Yep.
Um, you know, uh,
Mm.
I don't really have anybody else that's a vegan in my life. I have plenty of friends that are anti-vegan, you know. I'll say anti-vegan, they're not activists about it, but I'm never giving up meat.
Yep.
No chance. So, but being with Cassie, obviously it's difficult in terms of like food choices and stuff. When I remember when I first got with her and I took her out for a bite to eat, and I booked this restaurant. I booked this restaurant, and on the website, I've never dealt with veganism, right? Yep. Never. I've coached vegans, but I've never dealt with a vegan in my life. So so when I seen that it catered for vegans on the menu, I thought there'd be like a whole menu section for them or whatever else, right? So I booked this restaurant, turned out to be an Indian. I didn't even look at what the restaurant was. It was just close to where we were. Turned up and there was one. There was one meal, right? And I swear it was the same meal for starter and a main, just one was minus like the
size.
Minus potatoes or something, right?
Yeah.
Went there and it was a lovely restaurant. Don't get me wrong, the food was really, really nice. But I was so embarrassed. I was like, I'm so sorry. I thought there would be like a whole like 4 or 5 meals or something you could choose from. No, just one meal. Obviously it made for good conversation and a good laugh because I messed it up and it seems to be a typical thing I keep doing. But yeah, it's difficult to get your head around as a meat eater because you can just go anywhere and eat anything. And obviously vegans is no meat product. So it's not like you just don't eat the meat. You can't have the yogurt, you can't have the cheese, you can't have you basically give up all the nice food, if you ask me, for the sake of the animals. So it doesn't put a strain on the relationship. It's not difficult or whatever else. Like we got plans now when she goes into her off season to start making sushi and all that kind of stuff. And don't get me wrong, I will be putting fish and some meat with some of my sushi, but I don't need it.
Yeah,
it's not something that I need. I can, as long as I get a couple of red meats in a week, a good couple of ribeyes, and a bit of fillet, bloody made it stroganoff or something tidy like I like to have for tea or whatever. I'm not too fussed about like the bodybuilding strict, like gotta have chicken, and turkey. I ain't that fussed about that.
Yep.
So like I could quite easily go out and have a veggie something.
Yep.
That's not an issue. For argument's sake, I tried gyozas for the first time. I took her to the Lake District not so long back, and I tried gyozas from this sushi restaurant, and they were vegetable or vegan gyozas.
Yep.
They were nicer than the chicken ones I had the other day.
Yep.
There was more flavor than in those, and more texture, and there was more going on in those veggie gyozas than there was in the chicken ones I had the other day. So if I had a choice now, when I go to a restaurant that specializes in all that kind of stuff, what will I choose? It's probably going to be the veggie one, same as spring rolls, that kind of thing. I know we're not talking super healthy food here.
Yep.
Where, if you're going out and having a nice meal, you don't really care too much about healthy or something tidy. But that is something that I will now sway towards over the meat side of things.
Yep.
But like I said, for me, it's not really, she doesn't have a problem with me because I'm not, like I said, a massive meat eater. The only thing that I do thoroughly enjoy and will not give up is cheese. I love cheese, and you can't fake cheese. All vegan cheese sucks. I have tried it. Chocolate and steak, basically.
Yep.
Everything else I can sort of do without. But vegan chocolate is dog shit. Vegan cheese is dog shit. And obviously fake meat is not meat.
I'd be interested to get you on some veggie, some vegan chocolate. I've tried some really good ones out there. It's very, very good.
And they all taste like that fucking shit Christmas chocolate you get on the Christmas tree. It's been here for 2 years.
I tell you what, if we ever meet in person, I'm going to bring you some, and I think I'll blow your mind.
Please do. I'll try any chocolate. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. We've had desserts and stuff recently, like been places and had like vegan bloody brownies and whatnot, and I got no problem with them. I'll eat them, not a problem. A lot of them actually are less gritty with the sugar than the sort of the normal ones, and some of them they actually taste a little bit better because they're not quite as like sweet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm just wary of time at the moment because we're going to get kicked out in a few minutes. I've got one more question for you, obviously tied into a lot of. I want you to kind of think of 3 topics here. So one of them is fitness, another one is relationships, and the other tie-in because of our channel is something towards, I want to say veganism, but also philosophical. If you were to go back and talk to your younger self, or potentially someone who just reminded you of you, what would you say to them based on everything we've discussed today, or from what you know now, considering those three?
Don't be pressured into living life a way that you don't want to live it.
Fantastic.
Make your own choices.
Keep it short and sweet. I love it.
Because that's what I believe everybody should be allowed to do.
Yep. Gareth, where can people find you? Like, what's your channels? I'm going to put it down below in the description, but quick one on the video.
So on Facebook it's Gareth Reese Jenkins. The Reese is RHYS, and on Instagram it's Coached by GJ. Same for TikTok as well, but I'm not really too active on TikTok. I just mainly use Instagram. Yep. So it's Coached by GJ on Instagram.
Gareth, I've had such an amazing time talking with you today. I think I can definitely see more future videos coming out this time, potentially just sticking to one single topic. I think we got a bit of an overview today. In future videos, we can dive into more specifics. But I just want to say thank you again so much for your time. I'm going to end the recording now, but thanks again so much for your time.
No worries. Cheers, pal. Take it easy, mate.
Thanks, Gareth.